Hello and a wonderful good morning. Welcome to the third series of the IBM iX Digital Talks. Very happy to see such a broad audience joining us today. Thank you for dialing in. We hope we can make your time worthwhile today. My name is AJ Executive Director for New Business, and I will be your host and moderator for this week's IBM iX Digital Talks. Yesterday, we have seen a successful kickoff talk with Jan Piller, and also my colleagues Christoph and Dennis introduced us to the rising demand of custom and data platforms. We saw yesterday business challenges, use cases, capabilities, and advantages for CDP. Now, today's talk will be about commerce strategies based on customer data. Whereas we yesterday talked about CDP use cases and business value, today we will talk about the feasibility of CDP capabilities and also how CDP can be integrated into existing architectures, and also deep dive on the strategic execution of customer data platforms. But before we dig into the topic, let me please welcome my two guest speakers for today. Firstly, I would like to welcome Edwin Denk from our studio in Bells. Edwin is solution architect and platform consultant at IBM iX, has been with us for 11 years. Edwin brings an extensive know-how in platform architectures and strategies, having worked for numerous enterprise clients, especially also in the retail and CPG sector. And secondly, I would like to welcome, he is already known to us, we saw him yesterday. I would like to pleasantly welcome Christoph Prinz back on stage from our studio in Bells. Christoph is business designer at IBM iX, and as a strategy consultant, Christoph has been consulting major enterprise firms not only in their platform strategy but also interlinking that with the experience design. So, Dennis, Christoph, welcome. How are you?
Hi everyone, nice to be back again.
Hi everyone.
Eddie, how are you? How is the day? What's happening?
Day's great here. Really exciting. Really excited to get this started.
Perfect. Christoph, you seem to do some music there. Any details here?
That's true. Besides digital strategies and business design, I'm doing a lot of music. So this is obviously my home studio / home office.
Great. Wow, looks wonderful. Now, now Christoph and Edwin, thank you for being here and also for willing to share us your views and insights. Of course, with no further ado, I would like to hand over to you both. Before that, I would like to provide a friendly hint to the audience. Everyone is highly welcome to feed in your questions, discussion points, opinions, and views in the chat tool provided on the screen. We will include your questions during our discussions and also towards the end of today's talk. And having said that, Edwin, it's your stage.
Thank you, AJ. So, what's in for you today? What we will share is, or let's say we will try to blend strategy and technology aspects together, and we'll try our best to give you a round picture about our idea of the future of digital commerce. For that, we will start with our understanding of digital disruption and why providing a customer data-fueled, hyper-personalized experience is just so essential to survive. Later on, we will explain how we help a lot of our clients and also how we can help you to evaluate your digital commerce platform strategy with the core elements, customer data platform and unified commerce that we will highlight today. And with that, Christoph, let's get this party started.
Thanks, Eddie. That's a really good bridge. So I know it's a very long time. We all have been to a party because of obvious reasons, but I'm pretty sure we all still know what a party looks like or even what a party is. So let's imagine we have a party. Imagine we have prepared everything. We have a nice location, we have great food, we have good music, and you even invited all your friends and family to the party, and everyone comes. So sounds pretty good. But we have a problem because at our party no one wants to dance. That's really bad. And we're asking ourselves, what can we actually do about that? Maybe the food is not good, maybe the music is too loud. Is it the music genre? actually we don't know. And now imagine a commerce or e-commerce company. You have prepared everything again. You have the right products, you have the right website, you have a great shop. You even invited everyone to shop online, as you have ads, you have newsletters, you have social media posting and things like that, but no one wants to purchase. Similar to that party we have, we now want to understand, why is it? Why are we failing, although we obviously made all our homework? So you might find yourself asking you, we have invested a lot to implement the best commerce tools. Where are our customers right now? Or maybe you blame COVID to be the game changer for your e-commerce business. And yes, you're right. There are various forces that disrupt the e-commerce business. But it's at the end, our party guests, we have to ask why they're not dancing, and it is the users we need to ask why they're not purchasing at our e-commerce platform. And this is exactly the same approach as Jeff Bezos from Amazon is following when he says, we see our customers as invited guests to a party, and we are the hosts. It's our job every day to make every important aspect of the customer experience a little bit better. So all these different disruptive forces change the way we actually do commerce or e-commerce. Today, customers expect a consistent experience. They want to be known across all those different touch points, no matter if it's online or offline. They want to be remembered where they are in their very personal journey. So people might start their journey online, they search something, they research something, and when they enter an offline store, they are not forgetting what they have learned online. So we really need to connect. We need to recognize them and reward the loyalty across all those channels. And once we have the trust and commitment to buy, e-commerce companies need to fulfill when and where and how the customer wants it to be. So maybe it's an offline store, maybe it is click and collect, or maybe it is online only. The customers want to decide on their very own. And when we go one step further and make recommendations, e-commerce companies need to do that very smart. And smart means that we only recommend something that is relevant to them. And this means, again, we need to understand the customer. We need to understand their preferences, their context, their history, their knowledge, and we need to activate all the data and inspire them. And marketing and e-commerce first approach to do that is nothing new, and it even goes back to 1956. And it is called segmentation, a technique of segmenting your user base or segmenting the market. You all know that. So we started to provide different experience for different segments. Maybe there's the men's version of the shop and the women's section within the shop and so on and so forth. But that's, to be honest, outdated. And then we started to personalize. We personalized the websites, we individualized the emails, maybe the newsletters and all those things. And we tried to create a personal relationship, or we're still trying to do that. And this was a first attempt, but we're still lacking when it comes to this executional excellence. And today we want to go even one step further, and we are talking about hyper-personalization. So we are not talking about any segments anymore. We are talking about individual persons when we talk about marketing and sales activities. So hyper-personalization is basically the concept of gathering real-time behavioral data of customers to tailor product, services, and experiences according to their wants and needs. This is a definition of this big buzzword, hyper-personalization, for instance. And yes, it does affect the way we do e-commerce business. So if our clients, individuals, expect a frictionless experience across the entire journey, we have to change our entire e-commerce workflow, our entire e-commerce ecosystems. So we have to base all our decisions on data and on insights, and we have to be very agile within this process, to be honest. And this means that we have to do several steps in order to complete that. And when it comes to hyper-personalization in e-commerce, there is a very simple list, but maybe if we think about that, it's not that simple as just mentioned here. So first of all, yes, we have to put the customer at the core. We have to put the customer at the center of everything we do, and we have to collect the data. And we don't only collect like email address and what's your name and maybe what's your preferences and things like that. So we really try to connect real-time data along the customer journey. What is the customer looking at? What is he clicking on? And things like that, to really understand the situation the individual is in. And then we combine that with our master data. Like we used to collect all those master data in CRM systems or master data management systems. This is something where we, or a lot of companies are kind of experienced already. And then we combine this and create one unified profile across all those different channels, no matter if it's online, offline, if it's an app, if it's a website, if it's an e-commerce shop, if it's on social media and things like that. So we really have to stitch that all together. And once we have that unified profile, we are able to activate the data in order to deliver an individual experience. And activating means that there are various systems out there that help you to deliver customer experience. Like you have a content management system, maybe you have an email marketing tool, maybe you have a social media tool and all those things, but you have to activate the data you just collected and push it to those different channels. And all these things together enable us to create this flexible and seamless journey across all those channels. And once we have that, or once we have achieved that, this is what we call a hyper-personalized, unified commerce experience. And to be honest, yes, of course, this is a big buzzword, but this is exactly where all those marketing and sales efforts go into right now. So when you take a look at the list, this sounds pretty linear and obvious at first place, but in reality we are talking about more of everything. And this is kind of a very disruptive factor, because we have more channels, we have more data, we have more tools. Think about GDPR and privacy and all those things that lead to more regulations. You need more speed, more personalization. So it's really, let's say, very more of everything. So it's more of everything. And this is where it's time to reach the next level. And this is where we really want to connect the offline world, the social commerce and e-commerce world, in order to create this unified commerce experience. So what is it that most of the companies are doing right now? So they put exactly these topics on their agenda. They start initiatives and projects around those big buzzwords, let's say AI, automation, big data, analytics, social commerce, and so on and so forth. But on the other side, like on the right side, they have to deal with a legacy world where you might have historically built dependencies, data silos, or outdated systems. So there is a big gap between their agenda and the reality or the legacy world. And this is why we are asking, how can we close exactly this gap between these big buzzwords and everything that everyone wants to do and the reality? And when we try to answer that, we believe that there are three pillars to consider. First, it's about the experience, as just mentioned. Not only the experience of an e-commerce system, for instance, it's about the consistent experience. So we really have to put the client at the center. Second, we need to break up the data silos we created over the last years. So we really collect the data and insights in real time and manage it centrally. And last but not least, we need to solve the question how to connect the online and offline world in this e-commerce scenario. And when we are working on these three different pillars, it is important to not tackle them separately. So we really need to connect them with these three verticals you can see on the slide right now. And there are context, control, and activations. So context means that along the entire customer journey, we are successful if we are able to understand the context of the individual users. Remember, we are not talking about segments anymore, we're talking about individual users. So we have to collect the right data to understand what he or she needs and wants to do. So a data strategy and real-time systems help us to have the control of this data and help us to manage our actions in real time. And once we have understood what we need or what the clients or the individuals actually need, we need to activate the experience, which means we need to connect to the right tools and and provide the most relevant content to every individual. And this is why we believe a customer data platform combined with an e-commerce solution closes the gap between the agenda of our clients and their legacy world. And this is exactly the moment where I want to reference to the talk we had yesterday, because yesterday we had a great discussion about customer data platform. And if you're interested in what this customer data platform is, what are the capabilities behind that, I would like to invite you to go out to our website of the IBM iX talk, and you will find the recordings of the sessions there, and you can see how we at IBM iX define a customer data platform and what kind of capabilities we see in it, and what's the financial risk, for instance, if you want to go in that direction. But so far from my input, Eddie, maybe you can continue on that and think and talk about how you can actually approach this kind of things, customer data platform and unified commerce.
Yeah, thank you, Christoph. So what we heard, the ambitions are high, but how can you now identify what is actually needed to get towards that goal? We as IBM iX, we put experience first. But we also know how modern, decoupled, and modular architectures need to be designed, and we can put this together into a unified digital platform vision. But this process also only works if we can partner with our clients on eye level and can put cross-functional teams in place. Where you can benefit, in jointly design, create, and operate a state-of-the-art digital platform. Because you won't find the answer to all of those challenges in implementing one single solution, but it's all about the continuous refinement and optimization towards a clearly defined goal. And for that approach, let's start with experience and users real quick again. To deliver a personalized and frictionless experience, a key starting point is a holistic end-to-end journey, which does not stop at sales and marketing. Experience happens at all stages of a customer lifecycle. Experience also does not end with just looking at customers, but at all involved parties, from business partners and employees. Experience is online, experience is offline. And if I say that in this round, and if you're listening to that talk, you might say now, okay, say what? But in reality, as you might also know, that the majority of enterprises still have a long way to go to have a similar understanding, maybe not, but having the infrastructure in place to fulfill that promise. Basic expectations, like having the same promotions and pricing online and offline is in 2021 still not always the case. But back to our actual approach that we can put in place. In our experience-led approach, we follow 3 steps. It starts with envisioning the experience. So starting with this persona and journey definition that you might know, and all the other creative artifacts that you need to envision that experience. But I won't go into detail now here, but focus more on the translation towards technology, which happens in the subsequent steps. In step 2, we derive capabilities that the platform needs to provide to support the journey. And step 3, we will define the actual technology that can cover those capabilities. So which solutions or also architectural layers are needed, but also which methods and tools the teams need to have to put it on the ground. In our agile understanding, we obviously iterate and optimize on the go. But there are 3 key elements for hyper-personalization. It's unified processes, unified data, and real-time decision-making that you simply have to put at the core. And with the now following slides, I will showcase this based on a very simplified visualization how you can design such a platform. But I think you will get the idea. Let's say again, the last time you have a journey. And along this journey, you will identify signals and data that the customers will provide you at each and every step. But also, you will see which data you need to provide for each and every step. Again, we are talking about holistic journeys. So this is a crucial step to already identify your overall data model. This also helps to collect customer data with structure and purpose and identify actionable data. Besides the data, you will also identify the already mentioned capabilities that are needed to support the journey. By clearly naming them and describing them, you will also see how you might have overlapping capabilities over different solutions in the end. And if you have that, you can combine all that, so the capabilities and the data, into, let's call them, logical systems. There are some best practices how you can do that, but also it might be influenced if you have maybe if you favor some particular vendors or already have some systems in place that can cover a lot of that. With that, you can check which tools are needed. And modern cloud-based solutions provide state-of-the-art implementations for many standard scenarios in the world of digital commerce and marketing. And we as IBM X, we partner with some of the best ranked vendors in many of those Gartner quadrants or Forrester waves. And those best practices can be very useful as a foundation in order to not reinvent the wheel. And with all of our platforms, partners actually, we notice one thing. There is a clear trend to API-first implementations, which decreases integration complexity. And the whole market tends to shift towards decide on best value for money on this capability basis. And also trusts that different vendors seamlessly can work together. Just look, for example, at the Open Data Initiative between Adobe, SAP, and Microsoft. But another important aspect is that the customizations, the derivations from those standards are no longer developed within the standard solutions, rather than in a cloud-native microservice ecosystem you can create to efficiently leverage the solution roadmap of the standard solutions, but also develop business differentiators in an easy, flexible, and reusable way. But if you have now individual systems, how can they be joined together into a digital platform? Answer may be simple: we put certain layers into place. First of all, we need to be able to orchestrate and query the various APIs and functionalities in our multi-cloud architecture. The goal is that these layers cover the complexity of different parts of the overall data or process in the individual system. Why is this so important? Because it's so important because you might have multiple different applications. We talked about more channels and everything. And they can easily be connected to that API layer without in-depth knowledge about internal complexities that you might have. So where is which data stored? Where is the process running in different systems? This you can actually hide within that API management and integration layer. It's quite simple. An application wants to get product data and doesn't care much if some of the attributes are covered by a commerce system or some like product images are hosted in a DAM. For them, this should be a single API. And yes, obviously those applications are then supposed to drive the various channels that the users are choosing for consuming information or making their transactions. And don't forget about those custom microservices for creating the business differentiators. Many clouds are applicable for that kind of stuff. As IBM, we have OpenShift as an offering that gives you some flexibility to connect to multiple infrastructure providers and service providers. As you also might know, the platform will not work standalone. So there are still integrations into, let's call it an enterprise layer as well, where the actual heavy lifting is then done from things like logistics, but also accounting to ensure smooth operations. And with that, our, as I promised, simplified view is completed. And we follow basically two principles. The hyper-personalized user experience defines the requirements top-down, but also the other part, the transparent enterprise, enables a unified data and process architecture. And if you have that, let's call it a functional reference architecture, then what are the next steps? The next steps are obviously, if there are existing landscapes in place, assess the IT maturity in those areas, do some deep dives, gaps and gap analysis and make recommendations, and at the end create some kind of digital transition roadmap towards that goal. To sum things up, we think that today there are two important elements to have at the core of your digital platform. First is a real-time customer data platform, as Adobe or SAP and many others are offering. Recognizing the context of the customer at every moment, across all touchpoints. And based on this, unify master and real-time data to create the insights you need to make decisions and create hyper-relevant content. Whoops, that was too fast. For a CDP, it is crucial to identify the most important use cases that are not only important from an experience perspective, but also provide you with an expected return of invest at the end. And for that, I can recommend again the session Christoph and Dennis had yesterday around customer data platforms. And the second key element is unified commerce. Across all channels, be able to orchestrate transactions and processes in a unified, consistent, and frictionless way. Also here, our major partners offer outstanding solutions for that. And I say solutions in plural because a single one will not be capable of handling that all for you, for all channels. If you're retail and have key points of sale, you have online and so on. But there are a variety of solutions that fit just perfect in also our vision of a reference architecture to support that. And yeah, this is why we think a CDP loves unified commerce, because those two trends together deliver exactly what your customers will actually expect by today and why this is, from our perspective, not only a buzzword but a real trend that we will hear much more about in the upcoming months and years. And this is, yeah, in a nutshell, how you can get today into the pole position to win tomorrow. Because such a platform will be able to adapt to various different business models, products, and services, depending on what your customers expect and what the market demands. At the end, I quickly want to talk about, okay, what is, again, our support as IBM iX we can offer for our clients. Because no, it is not about a big strategy project that will just produce paper and then nothing happens. What many of our clients need, it's really about having dedicated, purpose-built services that provide value really fast. So exactly what you need. It needs to create immediate actionable results. And for that, we bundled some of the most common things together that we're happy to talk with you in detail. Also, depending on if you're CEO, CMO, CDO, CIO, you might need, a different language, and this is what we try to cover with our different services. And also, we do not start from scratch. So, based on our experience, we put many key assets into that support exactly that vision that we were talking about. That might be an accelerator for your website and e-commerce business that works decoupled, and exactly with that modular architecture that I described, we call it the experience orchestrator. But also many other things like use cases for a CDP that maybe for your industry are interesting. And also we can obviously support in selecting the right vendors. And my colleague Bernd Essmann will today in the afternoon talk a little bit more about this capability-based vendor selection and how this can be done. And with that, customers don't wait. Take action now, and I hope you take the opportunity to ask us some questions now. AJ, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. Technical issue. So Christoph, we can see him as well. Perfect. Thank you a lot, Christoph, Edwin. Very interesting talk. Now I would say we move over to the questions. So we received some questions from the audience. I kind of prepared some questions for you as well. So maybe Eddie, starting with you. First one. We saw a terminology called service blueprint earlier, and for me, as a non-professional, it kind of looked like a Tetris game full of like building blocks, coming together. So, what is behind it? Can you explain a little bit more behind what's behind the service blueprint?
Absolutely, you have good eyes, because that was a small line on one of the slides. But the service blueprint is one really important artifact that helps to create this North Star across your enterprise, how this end-to-end customer journey looks like, and where do you get which data and where which capability is needed, and where everyone can contribute, but also look into what's happening in which part, even maybe outside of my core business area.
Perfect, thanks.
So you can really print this out on a big wall and use this, as a basis for workshops and everything. It's really of great value.
So maybe to elaborate on this sounds interesting. So how does it actually work? Can you explain, or can you elaborate on an example, like from a client experience or something? So you mentioned you can print it out, and it looked like a massive artifact of as a deliverable. So Maybe you can tell us a little bit about the client experience, how actually stakeholders retrieved information and also used the service blueprint in their day-to-day work.
Yeah, as I said, some business owners, they always know part of the picture, right? And everyone needs to work to one common goal. You want that your business drives and really succeeds. But it's hard in with all these complex things to make this transparent and get you on the same level and get everyone on the same level. And this is what you achieve with that artifact. Because it's really customer centric, as I said, with customer journey as a starting point, and this helps you get the full picture.
And maybe to add on that,
perfect. Eddie,
when you talk about capabilities and tools at the end, and often we see the problem somehow that all those business units, they talk about my marketing tool, my e-commerce tool, and all those systems out there. And with the service blueprints, you always can reference or link the tool to the capability, to the actual need, and to the entire customer journey. So you're always talking about the customer need at the end, but not the tooling. Tooling is good and tooling is important, and you need tools for operationalizing all the things. But at the end, you really want to fulfill the customer's needs along the journey.
Christoph, then let me dig right into what you mentioned. You mentioned tools, and we heard earlier from Eddie also that clients and companies tend to use the best tool for the job, or let's call it another way, best of breed. So is that actually reality? Like, are customers really randomly mixing vendors and technology, and do you think this is advisable, first? And second, what is an ideal approach from your perspective?
I'm a consultant, and I would say it depends. So of course there are various clients out there that try to always get the best of breed solution, and you mix up everything together. But on the other hand, there are also clients who really believe in the ecosystem thought of one specific vendor. It both has, let's say, advantages and disadvantages. Maybe you can imagine, once you focus only on one vendor, you are having the risk that you have this vendor lock-in, that you always are dependent on one vendor. Of course, once you do that, you can make use of all the advantages and all of the out-of-the-box integrations and things like that. So it really depends, and this is something where you really have to dig into. And I want to reference to the talk that is in the afternoon from Bernd Essmann, because he will be talking about those vendor lock-ins and those different approaches to solve the problem.
Perfect. Thank you, Christoph.
Yeah. But in reality, maybe add to that, so I think we hardly see that it's really one vendor, one tool, and the other tool, the other vendor. It's rather than finding out this, useful combination. So what's kind of one part of your ecosystem that needs to work closely together, then you want to maybe leverage all standard integrations that you have, but maybe you have different parts, maybe your customer data part, your commerce part, and so on, which can be easily from different vendors, and you actually benefit more by combining different portfolios.
And Eddie, now looking back into your presentation overall, I had the impression that the presentation is quite, let's say, based on a greenfield approach. So that means we assume that a client has nothing, so basically no capabilities, no solutions, and we build from the scratch on, on a greenfield. This is ideally not the situation in the market, right? So if we talk to clients, usually they already have a set of capabilities, they already have some sort of a digital experience platform, maybe not functioning in every aspect, or not fully exploited in every aspect, but there is already something to build upon. So what is your view on how can these solutions be leveraged, and what is our job here to make sure that these solutions that are already in place can be leveraged?
Good question. Yeah, if you really can start this from scratch and having a greenfield approach, you're talking about a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, I think. Yeah, as you say, there are existing systems in place. They do their job. Very often they do their job and they're doing it good. No need of replacing them. But there might be gaps, gaps in capabilities that are actually expected that maybe those solutions you have don't provide. But maybe there is a bigger gap, like a customer data solution, a customer data platform that you simply don't have at all. So it's really about balancing where can I reuse solutions. That needs to be done in deep dives. So there is no standard answer in that, because it's often highly customized and everything. But of course, we should not forget about what's already existing. And I mentioned the experience orchestrator, just to give you an example. The idea how this was born was, let's keep all your systems in the background and just modernize the front end. Right, so this just, I think, visualizes a bit how we think here. So it's really not about throw everything away. And as I said, big strategy project, not at all. But if we can get into a mode with our clients with continuous refinements, optimizations, to close that gap to the agenda that Christoph presented, I think this approach is of highly value.
Christoph, last question maybe from my side. So, of course, the topics that we have presented today and we have discussed today are, let's say, a hot topic today in the market and also in the industry. What would be your advice? So, assuming clients that already have a set of capabilities and that already have somewhere to start on, so what would be your advice where they should start? So what would be the ideal first step you would recommend to them?
I think the first step is, and this is what I experience a lot when I talk to clients, is that the vision is not clear. Where do you want to go? What is your North Star where you want to be? And based on that, you really have to come to the point where you really try to break it down to smaller steps, and you will not be able to reinvent your business within the next year or something, but you really have to break it down and see where is the most benefit, or where is the greatest business impact when changing something. And if you go it step by step, I'm pretty sure you will be successful. But don't forget about defining what's the clear vision, where you want to go, and always look at that, and then you will find a path, and it will not be a straight line, I'm pretty sure, but you will find a path along all those obstacles, and to finally reach that North Star.
Anything to add, Eddie?
I think
that was also the perfect closing words, Christoph. I think you summarized it really in a very good manner. So first of all, guys, thanks a lot for your time, thanks a lot for your preparation, and a very insightful discussion which we had today. To the audience, so of course this talk has been recorded, so we will provide all the talks and all the recordings that have been conducted throughout this week on our landing page on ibmix.de. This will be also blended in after when the session closes down, so you can retrieve all recordings from that landing page, and you can also share this around and make sure that also maybe colleagues have access to it. Also, I would like to point out, and I think this happens quite a lot today, so I will keep it short. I would like to point out to the next talk which we have today at 4 p.m. with my dearest colleague Bernd Essmann, who is Director of Platform Consulting. The topic today is the playbook for e-commerce platform, decoupled enterprise architectures with excellent UX. And I think we, Eddie and Christoph, they both already set the stage, what the content is going to be. So again, we will have another building block on top of CDP and on top of unified commerce. We will now talk about how does a digital experience platform come together, consisting of several capabilities, several solutions, and how can we transfer that into an architecture that is based on microservices and maybe also a rather decoupled approach. So this is what we will hear from Bernd Essmann in 4 hours. So see you then, and thank you for joining in, and talk to you next time.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.